This podcast is sponsored by nobody. Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. 7 years I've been saying that on this podcast. It's a miracle. A miracle I can still get guests and have the stamina to do this. Now today I will be welcoming back Christy Alexander Hallberg. She is an author and she is a podcaster. She's got a great podcast called Rock is Lit where she talks about rock music. I had her on back in January to talk about Led Zeppelin. Now today we're going to nerd out on old Hollywood movies and old Hollywood movie stars. And it's going to be another great conversation. I love Christy. She is so supportive and so sweet and so awesome. She is a queen of Southern hospitality, and I'm going to enjoy our talk today. I really am. And rest in peace, Angel Salazar, one of the forgotten comedy greats of the 80s. You know, during that whole comedy boom. Check it out, man. Everyone remembers him from Scarface, The Wildlife, Hot to Trot, where he plays Mr. Snake, the horse jockey with steroids. You know, he was a funny guy. Rest in peace, Angel. Say hi to the Angels. Also, I wanted to let everybody know my interview with Mitzi McCall and Charlie Brill are really getting more and more views. It adds a testament to Mitzi's legacy and how loved she was by many. And I gotta say, I went back and listened, and I got a chill down my back and a tear in my eye when I heard her say, "Bye, Tommy," followed by the phone hanging up. I don't know why. Maybe it was the phone call we had afterwards. She called me back and told me that she had fun and I was great at what I do, and that if I'm ever in Los Angeles, you know, she'll make me Jewish food. Sadly, it never happened. But this is the testament of Mitzi's generosity, I guess. So yeah, here is my new interview with Christy Alexander Hallberg.
Tommy?
Hey Christy, welcome back. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having me back.
I am just fabulous. I did my toes yesterday.
Oh, is that right? What color?
Pink, because I stink.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they're looking very spiffy. Considering what I've gone through lately with having COVID and moved.
Oh, wow, that's right.
And I moved recently and stuff. Yeah, now I can pamper myself.
Oh my goodness, how are you feeling?
Overall, I feel great.
Good. Yeah, I had it in late June. It was stinky.
Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah.
All I can say is I'm glad I don't have it anymore.
Right. Hear, hear.
So, going back in time, do you remember the first old Hollywood movie that impacted you as a child?
Oh, absolutely. It's probably the same for an awful lot of people. The Wizard of Oz.
Yes,
and that's the first movie that I really, that's the first movie that I really remember seeing.
Yeah, oh my God, that one impacted me too. I became obsessed with it. I got to see it at the tail end of CBS showing it year after year, and it was before Ted Turner started showing it on TBS and stuff. Around that time, I got my childhood vaccines, and I developed this form of OCD where every time I heard a song that resonated with me, I would just sing along with it, and that's how it was with If I Only Had a Heart.
Oh. Yeah. I remember, and this was the days when it only came on like once a year.
Right.
So for people listening who are 20-ish or something, you had to wait a whole year for that thing to come on TV. And you couldn't go rent it. There were no DVDs or VHS or anything like that back then. And I remember I had some school dance on the same night that it was going to come on. And it was a real dilemma. It's like, should I go to the dance or should I stay home and watch The Wizard of Oz? It's a big deal.
Yeah, there's a whole Wikipedia entry about the movie's history on television, which I find very interesting.
Mm. So were you a big Judy Garland fan in general?
I mean, I admired her and I liked her. One of my favorite MGM musicals is For Me and My Gal, which was Gene Kelly's
Yeah.
first movie. But not like a hardcore fan. Like I gotta watch her, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I wanted to be Judy Garland when I was a little girl. I
Hmm.
would watch all of her movies, whatever came on. I loved her.
Yeah, I loved her in Judgment at Nuremberg.
Hmm. I loved her in Meet Me in St. Louis. And
Hmm.
then there's a more obscure film called Presenting Lily Mars she did with Van Heflin in 1943, and I always liked that one a lot.
Yeah, she was so talented. I
Hmm.
I was raised primarily by my Italian nonna during my formative years, and she got to show me a lot of the old Hollywood movies and got me into a lot of the old movie stars. We got Cinemax when I was 7, and I got to see like the last year and a half of them showing black and white movies before they changed their format because of Chris Albrecht's influence over at HBO. And I remember TNT when it first started and AMC,
Hmm.
and I just became obsessed with the old movies.
Yeah, yeah. So same here. I mean, I got hooked very, very early. It was a link between my mother and me. She loved old movies, and that she got me started on that when I was very young. And she started giving me these beautiful coffee table kind of Hollywood movie star books. And I
Hmm.
started to collect them. And I would flip through the pages and look at these stars from the 1920s and how interesting they looked, and just wanted to watch all the movies that I could. I just loved old Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time where, like, I could pick a old movie star out of a lineup and say that I've never seen any of their movies, but now I have, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So who was your favorite star when you were a kid?
Let's see, Jimmy Stewart, I've always loved, starting with, It's a Wonderful Life, and as I got
Oh,
old,
yeah.
as I got older, I loved Harvey and the Philadelphia Story and Flight of the Phoenix and Vertigo, Anatomy of a Murder. So many great movies he did.
Wow, you do know your stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, God, Jimmy Stewart just did so many great movies in those years. It's
Yeah.
amazing, and he was so versatile. He could do anything, but he always had that voice, to cover up his stutter.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I love Jimmy Stewart too.
Yeah, Mr. Hobbs Takes a Vacation, The Jackpot, which is very underrated. Did you ever see that one?
I haven't, no.
Yeah, he's a family man who wins a radio contest, and the perks that come with it are a real pain in the ass to him and his family. They're like coming, everyone's like coming to his house, and they have to record these radio spots, and like it's early TV time, so like they have to be on TV and everything. And Barbara Hale plays his wife, and Natalie Wood plays his daughter. It's really
Get out. Wow.
it's very underrated and very funny. It was 1950.
Wow. Yeah, I love Natalie Wood too.
She is my favorite actress from that time.
Mm-hmm.
It runs in the family. My dad, when he saw The Great Race when he was 8 at the drive-in, he told me he got his first erection seeing her.
Well, that makes sense. She was a beautiful woman.
Yeah, so it was passed on down to me, and I've had a lot of her books, and I've seen all her movies too. I just love her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
tell me about your favorites as far as movie stars.
Let's see. Well, I mentioned, I'm getting echo here. Okay, that's better. I mentioned Judy Garland. I love Natalie Wood. Of course, Rebel Without a Cause. But I also loved her in West Side Story and Splendor in the Grass.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Splendor in the Grass was something. Warren Beatty, my goodness. Wasn't that his first role? His first film role?
Warren, Yes, it was, and then he did the one with Leslie Caron after that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I also loved anything with Humphrey Bogart. I had a big crush on Humphrey Bogart,
I'm a
and
big Bogart
when I
guy.
yeah, yeah, and when I saw well, of course, there's Casablanca, but when I saw To Have and Have Not, which is his first pairing with Lauren Bacall, and
Mhm.
she was like 19 or something like that, and there's a 25-year age gap, but it's just miraculous to watch them fall in love on the screen, and the chemistry between them was just palpable.
Yeah.
So he's a favorite. Um, Jimmy Stewart was a favorite. I really like Sidney Poitier, like To
Yeah.
Sir with Love, and In the Heat of the Night, and on and on. There were so many. James Dean. Oh my gosh, James Dean. When that hit,
Yep.
and it hit me at the perfect age. I think I think East of Eden was the first of his 3 movies that I saw. I could be mistaken, but I know it wasn't Rebel. But oh boy, yeah, I was like 13, and that was it.
Yeah.
So big Jimmy fan.
I love Rebel Without a Cause. When I was a kid, I used to watch this movie that I wasn't supposed to watch when my parents were asleep, called Mischief, which takes
Ooh.
place in the 50s. It's a teen sex comedy movie, coming of age movie, and they go to see Rebel Without a Cause at the drive-in, and the movie was kind of mythic to me because of that movie, and then I saw it as I got older, and it became one of my favorites from that time.
Yeah. And then there's Giant. Those are the 3 that he did. I think he had bit parts in a couple of other movies,
Oh
but the
yeah.
3 that we know him from is Rebel Without a Cause, Giant, and East of Eden. And fun fact that you probably already know, but he died before they finished with Giant.
Yeah.
And so Dennis Hopper had to come in and kind of overdub, do a voiceover for this one scene that Jimmy's audio wasn't good in. And you can tell, you can hear the difference when you get to that scene. It's like Jimmy's kind of not slurring in that scene, and then all of a sudden it switches to a very different voice, and it's Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, that's funny to think about, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love all the Bogart and Bacall movies. To Have and Have Not, The Big Sleep, which is one of my favorite
Yes.
movies of all time. Dark Passage, I love because it was shot in San Francisco. Woohoo! And Key Largo, that was the last one they did, but that one is really not about romance. It's about, being hostage at that hotel resort, that
Right, right.
that Edward G. Robinson has them held at and stuff. I love those movies. It's pure cinematic magic, those movies.
Yeah. I'm also a big Brando fan.
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah. So Streetcar Named Desire, On the Waterfront, Apocalypse Now. And I love that he made The Godfather and Last Tango in Paris in the same year. And those 2 roles could not be more different. And it's just testament to what a great actor he was.
Yeah. He was God. It's funny. I've talked about this before, but like, by the '60s, he started taking very strange and odd roles. Roles
Yeah.
that were more strange and odd than the ones that he had done in the '50s. Because in the '50s, he had taken roles that were challenging, but yet you could tell it was him, and he was just using his voice and his face and everything. But then after that, he just didn't want to be recognized. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I heard some film critic at one point, their theory about Brando was that if James Dean had not died in 1955, then Brando would have been a very different actor. That he got kind of sloppy was their take on the change in the roles that he took in the 60s. So I don't
Yeah.
know, maybe.
Yeah. He was supposed to be in that Elia Kazan movie, The Arrangement, which Kirk Douglas ended up doing, and it didn't do well. And the reason why he didn't do it was because there was a lot of protesting going on some subject that he believed in, and I think he went on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson to talk about it at the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, and who knows? I mean, that movie could have been a huge hit with him in it.
Right.
Have you ever seen Cannon City?
No, I haven't. I haven't even heard of that.
It's a B noir that's on YouTube. It's from 1948. Scott Brady, who played the sheriff in Gremlins, he's it's him, the legendary acting teacher Jeff Corey, and Dr. McCoy himself, DeForest Kelly. They are three prisoners escaped from prison, and they go and they hide out. First, they steal this older couple's house at first, and Margaret Carey, the model for Tinkerbell in the original Peter Pan, I've interviewed her. She plays the love interest, and she was like 18 or 19 when she did this movie, and she had this funny story. Something fell on top of her. I think it was like a moose's head that was hanging on the wall or something crazy like that.
Dag.
And after it fell and everything, she was like, I'm okay, I'm okay. Next thing you know, blood started emerging from the side of her head. She hemorrhaged and didn't even know it.
Oh my God.
She had to be taken to the hospital, and she was only 18 or 19,
Oh my gracious.
It was crazy. But it's a nice little B noir film.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. What's the name of it again?
Cannon City with one N before the O.
Okay, got it. I'll check that out. Now, where are you on Marilyn Monroe?
I am a huge Marilyn fan. I've done a few tributes to her on here with a few historians. I love, of course, the comedy classics. Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, How to Marry a Millionaire, The 7-Year Itch, Bus Stop. They're all great. But my favorite performance of her is when she's the psychotic babysitter in Don't Bother to Knock.
Boy, that was really early.
That was 1952. And it's funny, in the late 80s, CBS Fox Video, they re-released all of Marilyn's movies that were on 20th Century Fox and United Artists, but for some reason they didn't release that one until like maybe the 2000s. Like, it was kind of like, I don't want to say a lost film, but like one that they didn't seem to be proud of at the time.
Okay, Tommy, I need you to help me with something.
Okay.
I'm not a Marilyn Monroe fan, and I feel like I'm missing something.
Okay.
Because it's, she's such a cultural icon. So what is it that you really love about her?
She, underneath all that beauty, I see the vulnerability and her need to want to be loved and her need to want to be a talented actress, And I did think that she was a talented actress, but it's just the beauty and the bullshit of the studio system, tried to erase it all too well, And I think that, the real gift that she had, though, like steamrolled over that, in her beauty and everything. And she could be the dumb blonde like her persona was, but she could also act like in Don't Bother to Knock, or she did this other noir a few years later called Niagara. That's really great.
Yeah. So I get the vulnerability, and I'm with you on that. I think she was a very troubled soul, and I really, she's got my sympathy for that. Somehow I was always able to divorce that from what I was seeing on the screen, and I just never could get comfortable with her as a performer. But that's just me. What
was it you think that you couldn't get comfortable with?
This is just me. I did not think she was a very good actress. I could always see her acting. And I didn't, you hear that she wasn't stupid. She wasn't the dumb blonde in real life. But all you ever see in interviews is, that she gave, or in most of her performances, not all of them, is that kind of playing up the dumb blonde. And I know that was a persona, but I don't like seeing women act dumb. That's just something that I'm not crazy about. But yeah, the vulnerability, the tragic life, all of that, I'm totally with you on.
Yeah. I mean, I like seeing women play dumb for comedic purposes because it can be funny,
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying though. Yeah, it's funny. She did, the last movie that she did that was released was The Misfits with Clark Gable and Montgomery Clift. There's this former actress that I'm friends with. She teaches film studies now, and I had her on a month ago, and she told me that was the first movie that impacted her as a child, and that
Wow.
when she was first going through puberty, she used to fantasize about having a four-way with those three in that movie.
Oh my
And
gosh.
one time I asked her to come on here if she wanted to do a sex positivity episode because she's very open about her sexuality, as am I. And she said that if she ever retired from teaching, she would definitely consider it. But that day that we talked last month, she wanted to give me that anecdote because she knew I would be titillated by it, and I was. I thought that was awesome.
Wow.
Have you ever
Yeah,
seen... Oh, go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Have you ever seen Storm Warning?
No, I haven't seen that. And I'm writing that down too.
That is considered to be Ronald Reagan's only good movie. He takes on the Ku Klux Klan in this movie, and Ginger Rogers, in a very rare dramatic role, plays his love interest, and Doris Day is in it. Warner Brothers made it. Warner Brothers, they took chances doing these kind of movies because MGM was much more saccharine. They specialized in the musicals and the romance comedies, and occasionally they'd make a melodrama or a war movie. But like Warner Brothers, they went for the throat, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay, I will check that one out. Storm Warning. I'm not a Ronald Reagan fan, but I'll watch it. I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's his only good movie. I agree with that. That it's his only good one. How about the silent comedians? Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Fatty Arbuckle, Harold Lloyd.
Absolutely. I remember my mom showing me City Lights, Charlie Chaplin, when I was a little kid. Yeah, Charlie Chaplin I really liked. I can't think of a film right offhand with Fatty Arbuckle, but I have a clear memory of watching him in something with her, and I don't know what it was. But yeah, I mean, I liked Rudolph Valentino, not a comedian, of course, but my dad was named after Rudolph Valentino. His name is Rudolph.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, my grandmother, I guess, was a fan. And my dad was born in 1930, so it was right on the heels of, after Valentino died, and there was a lot of hoopla. But yeah, I like silent films.
Yeah, Charlie Chaplin. I have always loved. The first time I ever saw him, I was 3 years old. We were at the drive-in. My mom had to go to the snack bar to complain about something, and there was this stand-up cardboard poster of Charlie Chaplin selling Bagley's cookies. And I said, "Hey, Mommy, I want a cookie just like that man has." And she's like, "You don't get a cookie. I'm mad." And that was the first time I saw him. And
wow, what a memory!
Yeah, and then I saw his movies on TNT. They had a film festival a couple times, and I love Modern Times. That was his last one as the Tramp, actually.
Yeah, I like Modern Times too.
Yeah.
Switching from comedy, I'm thinking about, and what just popped into my head is Lon Chaney and Boris Karloff and those old horror movies.
The Universals.
Lon Chaney was in. Yeah. I remember one Halloween when I was living in the Bay Area. There was this wonderful old theater that they showed classic movies in, and it looked like a theater you would watch a movie from
Stanford?
in the 1920s. I don't remember. This has been a long time ago. But I remember going there one Halloween night and seeing a double feature, and it was Frankenstein with Lon Chaney and Dracula with Boris Karloff. No, that's the other way. No, yeah, that's right. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Yeah, Boris Karloff.
Bela Lugosi was Dracula.
Bela Lugosi was Dracula, and Boris Karloff was Frankenstein.
Yeah. So was Lon Chaney the Invisible Man? Did he do that?
No. First it was Claude Rains, and then Vincent Price in his first horror movie. Well, it's not technically a horror movie, but in that realm of fantasy films, he was.
Okay.
Yeah, we had Stanford Theater in Palo Alto, which I can't believe it's still there. They show the same movies though over and over again. I wish that they would show obscure stuff like I just told you, Storm Warning or Cannon City, and if they just mention who's in it and stuff, they could still probably get people to come in.
That had to have been that theater because I was in the Palo Alto area. I was living in Los Altos Hills with a bunch of roommates, and we went to Palo Alto, so I guess that had to have been it.
Yeah, I used to go there with this girl that I was friends with for a short time, who was like part of this circle of bar people I used to hang out with when I worked in the bar business, and she was very opinionated, and I think she kicked me to the curb after a while because I was too scared to make a move on her because I was intimidated by her, but she loved the classics.
Aww.
And we'd go see like Only Angels Have Wings with Cary Grant, or the Philadelphia Story or something like that. Yeah, I mean, we had that. Cary Grant was a big movie crush of mine.
Oh, and he was a big movie crush of a lot of people.
Yeah, my mom had a paperback book when I was a kid, and I used to read it. It had all these great pictures from his movies in it, and I just watched that documentary about Scotty Bowers.
I keep meaning to watch that, and I haven't yet. But I did see it's a biopic on oh Christ, I don't remember which outlet it was, but it's called Archie, and it's about Cary Grant. That just made me think of that when you mentioned Cary Grant. That was good.
I haven't seen that, but yeah, like Cary Grant was a frequent customer of Scotty Bowers, and he claims that he hooked up with him and all that stuff. Cary Grant lived with Randolph Scott. They were both bi, and they hooked up and all that stuff. I watched Charade yesterday.
You watched what?
Charade.
Ah, okay. Did you like it?
I haven't seen it in years, but yeah, I still love it. Still holds up. Audrey Hepburn is just so cute in that movie.
Yeah.
And James Coburn is great as the bad guy. And George Kennedy with his hook hand. He was like the first spy movie hook hand villain. I can't think of one before that. And Walter Matthau, he always reminded me of my uncle, and he really reminds me of my uncle in this movie with his bad mustache he had.
Yeah. Well, speaking of silent movie stars, Gloria Swanson comes to mind, but not for her work during that period. I really loved her in Sunset Boulevard from 1950, and she was just the perfect person to play that silent movie star.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just a great movie.
Yeah, Sunset Boulevard is one of those great classics. I love just Billy Wilder movies in general, like Double Indemnity and The Lost Weekend and The 7-Year Itch, which I mentioned. Some Like It Hot. And The Apartment.
Oh, God, I love The Apartment. Yes. Shirley MacLaine, Jack Lemmon. That's a fabulous movie.
Fred MacMurray.
Is he in that? I didn't remember. Oh, God, yes. He's the guy that she's dating who's not treating her very well.
Yeah, Fred MacMurray once said, the 2 movies I made with Billy Wilder are the only movies I ever did that required acting.
And of course, most people think of him from My Three Sons.
My Three Sons, the Disney movies, Flubber, and The Absent-Minded Professor. It's funny, he was a contract player at Paramount in the 30s and 40s, and they just casted him in the most shitty B movies of all genres, and Double Indemnity was the first one that was considered a classic for him.
Is there an iconic movie that critics and fans love that you don't like, kind of like I am with Marilyn Monroe? Is there a film or an actress that you kind of feel like you're supposed to like, but you just don't?
From the old days?
Sure.
Let me see. Well, it's funny. I mean, I like Audrey Hepburn, but I was never a huge fan. I mean, I do admire her and stuff. She would probably be the closest to it. I do like Charade, and I like Breakfast at Tiffany's and stuff like that. I don't know. I can't really think of anybody really from that time.
I'm with you on Audrey Hepburn. It's like she's someone that I like, and I feel like I'm supposed to like more than I do. My favorite film of hers is Wait Until Dark, which was a little later in her career. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, oh my God, like Alan Arkin, he hated doing that rape scene because he just loved her so much. He just thought, this is the most despicable human being I could ever play, and that he just did not like doing that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Audrey Hepburn too. She was so skinny and so waif-like. Like it's a miracle that she even was a movie star.
Yeah. It was that face, and she just had this enchanting, beautiful face and that long neck.
Yeah. She was married to Mel Ferrer for like a while too. Mel Ferrer played Natalie Wood's boyfriend in Sex and the Single Girl. Did you ever see that movie?
Oh, yes, I did.
Love it. I love it. Her and Tony Curtis, they had real magic chemistry, I felt.
Yeah. And going with Natalie Wood, I could think of another one. Love with the Proper Stranger with Steve McQueen.
Yeah.
I like that one a lot.
There's an actress that's still alive from it. I tried so hard to get her on here last year for the 60th anniversary, but she just did not budge or respond or anything.
Oh, bummer.
Sadly.
Yeah, but look how many amazing people that you have had on.
Oh, yes, I'm very blessed that way, But then sometimes there'll be that one where it's like, I want that person because I love this movie. People don't talk about it anymore. I really want it, and sometimes it'll be a bummer like that where it's just like I can't get them, and then I'll try to find somebody else and can't. You know what I mean?
Oh, I hear you. I mean, I host a podcast called Rock is Lit about rock novels. And I, for the life of me, cannot get Taylor Jenkins Reid, who wrote Daisy Jones and the Six, on. I cannot break through her wall of PR people to get her. So she's the one that got away from me too.
Those are the worst. The wall of PR people, the absolute
God,
worst.
yes.
I love Jimmy Cagney. It's funny. My brother is my half brother, and I was very close to his grandparents. They could not stand Jimmy Cagney. They were like, he showed his true colors on screen as being this arrogant Irish asshole. They thought, and they're like, I don't know how he can be an influence because he's a one-dimensional character on screen, and I never understood that. I thought he showed a lot of range.
Yeah, and my picture in my mind of Jimmy Cagney is that iconic still of whoever it was putting I think it was a grapefruit in his face, and I can't remember which movie it was from now.
Yeah, I can't think either. Well, I always think of him as George Cohan in Yankee Doodle Dandy, which he won an Oscar for.
Yeah, talk about a departure in roles for him.
He was up for the Oscar that year. Yeah, and he was up for the Oscar that year, same time as Bogart for Casablanca.
Oh, man. Casablanca was so amazing.
Or was that the next year? I can't remember. It's one of the two. But Bogart was Cagney's villain for a while before he became the leading man. In the Roaring Twenties and the Oklahoma Kid, which is the only Western like Cagney ever made.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know about it. I don't think it was one that went through the roof when it came out in 1939, but it has both of them. As Bogart and Cagney in a Western. It's just a funny concept to think about.
I've never been a big Western fan.
Really?
There are a handful. Yeah, there are a handful that I do like, but on the whole, I was never that. I didn't gravitate toward that genre.
Is it because of the kind of alpha male lexicon it became a part of?
Probably.
Yeah, I totally get it. I can separate myself from that because I completely dislike the alpha male bullshit of our culture. But I can get into John Wayne because my dad was a big John Wayne fan when I was growing up. I could get into Red River. Montgomery Clift plays his son in that movie.
I know.
And
That's the reason that I love that movie. I had such a crush on Montgomery Clift before he had his car wreck.
yeah,
He was so beautiful. My God, A Place in the Sun.
yeah. And you know what's funny about him playing his son in that is that he kind of predated the entitled millennials in that role. He's just like
Yeah.
he hates his dad and all this stuff, and he
Mm-hmm.
just thinks everyone owes him. It was just like it was just like ahead of its time, and you can see Quentin Tarantino's influence when you watch that movie because it's just a talking heads movie,
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
and like there's action, but it only happens maybe a total of like 10 minutes throughout that entire 2.5 hour movie.
Hmm. So I did like Big Jake with
Yes.
John Wayne. I did like that. I think that came out the year I was born, 1969, but that
Oh,
was a good one.
that came out 71.
Okay, all
True
right.
Grit came out in 69.
That's what I'm thinking of then. But no, I love Big Jake. That's probably not my favorite Western, but it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, Big Jake. That was one that used to play on those holiday. I think it was like Labor Day or something marathons on TBS. They would show like 3 or 4 John Wayne movies. That would always be one of them.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, they used to do that with Clint Eastwood as well, showing his spaghetti westerns.
Yeah, yeah.
I love a fistful of dollars. I have a rare VHS copy of it because I collect VHS tapes. I have my own video store in my bedroom, which is fantastic. I always wanted that when I was a kid.
Wow.
Hmm.
Very cool.
I know you're into Sal Mineo. You and Scott were talking about him on your podcast recently.
Yes, I am. Of course, he played Plato in Rebel Without a Cause, which was the first time that I'd seen him. But he also made several movies that I liked. I mean, I just kind of latched on to him, and I talked about this with Scott a little bit. He seemed vulnerable. He seemed in need of mothering in a way, and and James Dean, of course, also had that vulnerability, but there was also a toughness there.
Hmm.
So I liked them both for different reasons. But Salminio, the Gene Krupa story, I loved that movie. There's a scene in that movie, and I did have, I recorded this off the TV, so I did have a videotape of this. And I would rewind the part where he finally gets together with the girl, and I can't remember her name now.
Hmm.
And he pushes her up against the door, and they have this passionate kiss, and it was like, ooh. And I would back that up and watch that over and over again. I don't know what that says about me, but I probably shouldn't have confessed that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I have plenty. I have plenty of experiences like that myself, so I totally get it. Yeah, I did a little tribute to Sal a few years ago. I had the guy who wrote that book, Michael Mashad.
Oh, wow, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. I tried to get Diane McBain on the podcast in 2020, and she was a little difficult, and I had to go through her assistant Michael, who was Michael Mashad, and I didn't realize it until long after I did an interview with him. I don't even think he realized I was the same guy, because then I recognized that she was being kind of a diva, so I was like, I'll pass on that interview, and then a year later, I reach out to him for an interview of Sal Mineo, and we did it, and
Oh,
I
wow.
don't even think he put two and two together until we became Facebook friends, and he's posting Diane's stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, but like we were talking just about how he told people that he had connections to the Hell's Angels, so people wouldn't mess with him because he was a little guy and stuff.
Right, yeah. Yeah, he exuded this sort of sweetness too. Even when he was playing, what's the name of that movie? I watched it right before I did the interview with Scott Michaels. Something who shot Teddy Bear, who killed Teddy Bear. I think it's Who Killed Teddy Bear.
Hmm.
And he just plays this psychotic rapist. And even then, it's like, yeah, but look, there's something in his eyes. There's a sweetness there. But that's a good movie.
Yeah, I love the Gene Krupa story.
Oh God, yeah.
That was a fantastic movie. He did this
Mm-hmm.
romantic comedy called A Private's Affair, which was cute.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
God, yeah, he did some good ones. The first time I ever saw him, strangely enough, I didn't know what he looked like because he was one of the Planet of the Apes in Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
That's right.
Was
Yeah, well, you gotta eat. He was not getting a lot of roles at that point.
No, he only has that one scene in the first 10 minutes, and then he gets killed by that real
Yeah.
gorilla. Yeah, and when I first saw him, I was like, oh my god, so that's what he looks like. He is adorable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he was only, 36, 37 when he was killed. It's just tragic what happened to him.
Yeah, God, he's one of those guys that just, he became iconic, even though the quality of the work slipped, which wasn't his fault, and then to die like that, it's just sad. It really is.
Yeah,
Are
exactly.
are you into Robert Mitchum movies?
I do like Robert Mitchum. I'm thinking of Cape Fear. That's the first movie that comes to
He's
mind.
so creepy in that.
No kidding. Yeah. And I can't think of anything else right off the top of my head.
Let's see. I love Heaven Knows Mr. Allison. I believe in my heart of hearts that was John Huston's attempt at doing another African Queen, because it's kind of the same premise of like going on this little adventure, a man and a woman. Tim and Deborah Kerr as a nun. I like that. I like the early noirs he did, like Angel Face. He did a few with Jane Russell. I've done a Jane Russell tribute too. I liked her. Didn't like her politics necessarily, but liked her. He did. Oh God, what was that one? Night of the Hunter. Charles Lawton.
Yeah.
That was his favorite role he ever played, and like whenever he was on a show, he was always excited when they showed a clip of it because he felt that was his best work.
Okay. Sorry, my dog's barking.
It happens. Sometimes I'll listen back and I'll hear my dog barking in the background, like, damn it.
Mm-hmm. Anytime somebody drives by the house, he loses his shit.
Yeah. Glenn Ford, I thought was great.
Yes, Betty Davis. We've not talked about Betty Davis, but
Yes.
She was amazing. Whatever happened to Baby Jane with Joan Crawford is so creepy. It's so creepy, but it's great, and all about Eve, and there are just so many other roles that she did that she was great in.
Directed by Robert Aldridge, who directed my favorite war movie, The Dirty Dozen, and The Longest Yard with Burt Reynolds. I love that movie. He directed a lot of great movies. Have you ever seen her Dean Martin roast?
No, I haven't.
It's on YouTube. Check it out. This is when Dean was doing the roasting segment at the end of his variety show before it became like a 4 times a year special, and it is hilarious. Oh my God, Henry Fonda's got the best jokes in that roast. He is so damn insulting. It is so funny and stuff. Betty has done a lot of great pictures. I wish I could remember the names of some of them. And Vincent Price, he says that Joan Crawford used to borrow Betty's bras for shoulder pads.
Oh my God!
And then he tries to go on to the next joke, but then starts laughing at that joke.
Oh my gosh!
Oh God!
Yeah, I think it's sad that a lot of people only know of Joan Crawford because of the Faye Dunaway movie, Mommy Dearest, which is so campy. But Joan Crawford, Mildred Pierce is a great movie that she was in. She was a really good actress, and of course the role that she played in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, she's great in too.
Yeah, and it's funny. You look at like the early movies, like in the first few years, you could see just how unconventionally beautiful she was, but then like smoking and just stress caught up to her, and she became this not so pretty character actress who could also be vulnerable and all of that stuff, and it's interesting how that happens. I can't think of another actor that's ever happened to.
Yeah.
How about Victor Mature?
From Casablanca. That's the only thing I think I've seen him in.
Was he in Casablanca?
I think he was. Wasn't he the guy that Ingrid Bergman goes off with?
No.
Victor Laszlo? Who?
Maybe that's Victor Laszlo, but not Victor Mature.
Wait a minute. I'm at my computer. I gotta look it up.
His most famous roles, he was it Doc Holliday or Wyatt Earp in my Darling Valentine, My Darling Clementine with Henry Fonda. And he did that great noir Kiss of Death where Richard Widmark's got that giggle and like he does it like before he kills somebody.
Okay, all right. No, you're right. I just looked up Casablanca. Paul Henry was Victor Laszlo. I don't know where I got Victor Mature. I don't know why I thought that.
It's Victor somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Victor somebody.
Yeah. Victor Mature's daughter, Victoria, she was born when he was in his early 60s. She does a lot of like Q&As for like screenings of his movies and stuff, but she's so shy about doing a podcast. Yeah, I've asked her many times, but she's just so shy, and she's a big fan of mine. She heard my interview with Anthony Quinn's widow, and she reached out to me and said she loved it.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah. But I just hope she comes out of her shell because I would love to have a great conversation with her.
Yeah, that would be great. But I get it about the shy thing. I'm shy too. It's like I was hoping you'd want to do this 5 o'clock my time so I could have a glass of wine first. 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock's a little early for me, so I'm doing this stone cold sober.
Well, last time we did it, yeah, you had a glass of wine and I had some weed, but
that's right.
Yeah. But no, you're doing just fine. You're not.
Why, thank you.
Yeah. When you did the talk with Scott, had you had a glass of wine? Because you don't look like you did.
Oh hell yeah.
Oh, you did?
I think I did. I'm trying to remember what time of day. If it was before 5 o'clock, no.
Okay.
But I think it was later. I know the first interview I did with him about the Manson murders was in the morning. Mm-hmm. And so no, I didn't have anything. I don't know. I don't remember now.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I there's certain interviews I've done I can remember what happened earlier that day or something, right? But I've done so many, like I couldn't tell you what happened. You know.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've got how many episodes do you have? You have done so many episodes.
2161.
Tommy, good grief.
You know, just my circumstances changed. You know, I changed my lifestyle from going out every night and drinking to, you know, being a homebody and just pursuing my passion, you know.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, now I'm just at that point now where I'm ready to start being social again and, like, you know, maybe find my partner, you know, because I'm 41 now, so we shall see if that comes to pass.
If you're ready to find your partner, get out there, boy.
Yeah. Do you like, let me see, I'm trying to think, Hitchcock movies?
I do. I'm not a huge Hitchcock fan, and my favorite Hitchcock movie that might surprise you is actually Rebecca with Joan Fontaine and Laurence Olivier. I love that movie. I have seen that so many times.
Yeah, there's one he did early on in Hollywood. Oh God, I read about it the other day. I want to see it now. It had Joel McCrea playing the lead.
Wow.
And you know, Joel McCrea was primarily a B-movie guy that everybody knew and stuff. This is considered to be the best movie he ever did because it was Hitchcock. And
okay.
I want to see that one, but like I love North by Northwest and Vertigo and The Birds, because The Birds was shot close to my hometown in San Mateo. And what else? Oh, The Man Who Knew Too Much.
That's Jimmy Stewart, isn't it?
That's Jimmy Stewart.
Okay, yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, there's no doubt Hitchcock was brilliant. He made some incredible films.
Yeah, and then you hear all this horrible stuff about the guy, you know.
Right.
Like so many from that time. And like when I see him being interviewed on like the Dick Cavett show or something, just like he's got this strange aura about him that I'm not surprised when I hear all that stuff. you know.
Yeah, but it's talking about strange aura. Orson Welles, what an evolution from when he was making films in the 40s, like Citizen Kane came out in 1941, and acting in the 40s, and then you see him on talk shows in the 60s or somewhere around in there, 60s or 70s, and he just looks like a totally different person.
Yeah.
And just there's just a different, he gives off a different vibe. But I love him in not only Citizen Kane, but Jane Eyre with Joan Fontaine.
Yeah. I love Touch of Evil.
Yeah, he was great.
I think he brought out the best in Charlton Heston, even though he's got that really bad mustache. Oh, that movie with Joel McCrea that Hitchcock directed was called Foreign Correspondent.
Okay.
Write that down. I haven't seen it, so I want to see that one now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was probably one of the first ones he made when he came to Hollywood. Because he made movies in England, and he actually did an early version of The Man Who Knew Too Much in England in the 30s. It's funny, the remakes that happened back in the 50s of stuff that happened in the 20s and 30s, like Magambo with Clark Gable was a remake of a movie Gable made in 1932 called Red Dust.
With Jean Harlow.
Yeah, and he didn't even have his mustache in that one.
Right. Well, let's talk about Clark Gable. We haven't talked about him yet.
Yes.
What else do you like of his films?
Let's see. It Happened One Night is like...
I love that.
That movie set the template for romantic comedies in the future. Just the man and woman nagging at each other because they're really in love with each other but don't want to admit it yet. You know?
That hitchhiking scene is classic when he's showing her how they hitchhiked.
Which one?
It Didn't Happen One Night. There's that hitchhiking scene.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Frank Capra, that was his, like, breakout movie. And, like, I think Gable was brand new over at MGM, and he got loaned out to Columbia to do the movie. But, like, Gable would, try to stand up to Louis B. Mayer, and Louis B. Mayer would say, if you keep talking to me that way, I'll send you to Universal, because Universal was a B movie studio back then.
Okay.
Yeah. But I love, let's see, what else do I love? Manhattan Melodrama. That's allegedly the movie John Dillinger went to go see the night that he was shot.
No way, really?
Allegedly, yeah.
Okay.
They showed it in some of the movies that have been depicted of Dillinger, but I don't know if it's completely accurate. There's that. There's, of course, I've only seen clips of Gone with the Wind, but I'm going to see the full movie finally. My dad told me when I was 20, wait till I'm 30 to see it, because then I'll appreciate it. Well, now I'm 41, and now I'm ready to see it.
Yes, you need to watch that. That's always been one of my favorite films.
Yeah, he did a couple with Spencer Tracy, Test Pilot. Mm-hmm. That was good. Yeah, just stuff like that. Oh, Call of the Wild, Mutiny on the Bounty.
Yeah. Well, and he was in the Marilyn Monroe film, The Misfits, which was his last film.
Yep, that was both of their last movies. But Marilyn, she did a movie that never got released right after that.
Yeah.
With Dean Martin, and I've only seen clips of it on her A&E biography, and there's probably clips of it on YouTube, but it's sad it was never finished, because it probably would have been a great movie.
Yeah, I think somebody tried to put what pieces they do have together into something that was presentable. And I saw that, and it was definitely not a complete film, but it was kind of interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, Gable, yeah, I think he was a better actor than people gave him credit for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he was married to Carol Lombard, and that story was always sad because they were supposedly so in love, and she died in a plane crash during World War II. Mm-hmm. And that legend has it that just completely wrecked his life.
Yeah, God, and his son, who we never got to meet, died a couple years ago.
Oh, I didn't know that. What happened to him?
I don't know. I think it was just an illness. I don't know if it was COVID
Mm.
or anything, but it was like an illness. Yeah, he was only like a 60, 61, which was like around the age that his dad died, 60, 61 or whatever.
Yeah,
It's sad. It's really sad.
that's too bad. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, who was the? Oh God, what was her name? Oh, Marie Provost. She was the silent movie star who was allegedly eaten by her dogs when she was she died in her apartment.
Yeah, that's the rumor. Scott Michaels says that that's not accurate. I can't remember. There's a video clip of him talking about this, but
Yeah.
I think that story may have originated with Hollywood Babylon, the Kenneth Anger book. And of
Hmm.
course, there's virtually nothing in Hollywood Babylon that's true. He just made up a bunch of stuff. But that is the rumor, and that's what most people know her for now.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of weird stuff that happened in that era of Hollywood that we're only starting to dissect now and find out what the truth was, like with the whole Fatty Arbuckle thing, or
Hmm.
um, why there stopped being female directors and it became an all male dominated regime over there.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of interesting stuff. So, is the Rock is Dead podcast on hiatus now?
Rock is lit. Yeah, we're on hiatus right now. We are. I was working on my new book this summer, so
Hmm.
it was one of the few summers that I didn't teach. I completely took the summer off from podcasting, teaching, because I really needed to make some headway on my new novel. So I did that. We'll come back for season 4. First episodes will come out in early October.
That is so awesome. Do you have any in the can right now?
A couple, but I'm gonna hold off on saying too much about that. But I've got 2 or 3 in the can right now.
Okay. Who do you want to interview that you really really want?
Taylor Jenkins Reid, Daisy Jones and the Six.
Hmm.
It's like, how can you call yourself a rock novels podcast and not have that person on? Because
Yeah.
she's the biggest rock novelist right now. But as I said, I just have not been able to break through her PR wall.
Yeah. I just interviewed Linda Chadwick, the Texas rock groupie that Stacy had on also
Oh, yeah.
recently. I think you two would get along great because you both have the same like Southern accents, and you're both down to talk about anything. And I didn't expect to talk as long with her as I did. We talked over 90 minutes, and we just had a blast. She told some funny stories and some great stories, and her book, I've only read the Amazon sample. I'm gonna get the book. She doesn't tell the dirty stories per se because she wanted to be respectful to her husband and stuff, but
Right.
she did have a couple really funny stories in there. She had this really funny story about the legendary groupie Sweet Connie that just, oh my god, that was hilarious.
Can you give me a little tidbit of that?
Well, she said that I asked her if Sweet Connie was like, when she was hanging around her that one time, if she was like, giving all the girls blowjob tips or anything, right? And she said no, but like she walked into the room and saw a couple of guys going down on her.
Wow. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and just the way she said it with her accent just had me in stitches. I was just
Where is she from?
Texas,
Okay.
Texas. She started out as like she was like a pop music loving person, and then her older brothers got her into rock and roll, and she's got some great stories about that. And yeah, she just got into being a groupie by accident, pretty much.
Mm. Well, I'll have to listen to that episode. You've got me intrigued.
Yeah, she's she was great. Yeah, we got along very well.
Very cool.
Can you drop a hint of like what you're working on though, as far as writing goes?
Yeah, it's a sequel to my first novel, which is called Searching for Jimmy Page.
Oh,
And
nice.
Yeah, but this book doesn't have anything to do with Jimmy Page or Led Zeppelin. It's just got some of the same characters in it, but it's a different situation altogether. In the background is Graham Parsons, so
Yeah.
it's still a rock novel. They're still heavy on the music, and it's primarily set in Los Angeles and also Joshua Tree. So I did a research trip last April, and I'm going again in March. Because I'm not from that area. I've been several times, but I've never lived in Southern California. I was in the Bay Area for about a year long ago. But that's what's going on with that book.
I was probably still a kid when you were living in the Bay Area for that short time. Otherwise, if you had been there a while, God, we could have hung out and everything.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
Yeah. Do they have any old Hollywood like revival houses in your area?
None that I'm aware of, and I don't live in a big area. I'm in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm not aware of such a theater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I said, we got the Stanford Theater in Palo Alto still. New York has closed down many revival houses. It's really sad. And
Mm.
the first interview I did back in 2019 with Karen Hansberry, who's a noir expert. I just did another one with her last week. We just nerded out on pop culture. She she and I were talking about this in 2019 about how all the old revival houses were closing down and she's like, well, people like us will keep the movies alive because we love them so much. We'll be talking about them, until the end of time. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a great way to look at it. I know that Palm Springs has a film festival every year of old Hollywood stuff. I interviewed one of the historians who does the Q&As and stuff, and who's a big part of it a few years ago. He didn't like me. That was a weird interview. And, like, there were some like movie stars that didn't want to come to the festival and talk about their old movies, including this one guy. I'm intrigued as to who it was. He said that like you couldn't even pay me $1 billion to walk across the street to talk about one of my old movies, and he lived right across the street from the festival.
Oh my God! So literally, you couldn't pay me to walk across the street.
Yeah, $1 billion. He said. I was like, wow. I wonder who that was.
Mm.
Yeah, that's.
Now, are you still living in the Bay Area? Are you still in Palo Alto?
Well, it's funny. I left San Mateo in 2017. I went up to Redding for 6 years, and then I moved back to the Bay Area, but Modesto last June of last year, and that's like the closest to the Bay Area I am now.
Okay. For some reason, I was thinking you lived in L.A.
No, I wanted to live in LA my whole life until the pandemic, and then when I hear about all the craziness going on down there, I'm like, okay, I'll just visit. I don't want to live there right now.
Yeah, I always wanted to live there when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's just not the same anymore, but at least we got, the Walk of Fame there in Hollywood and Vine. I have great memories of being there when I was 6.5 and seeing the old Hollywood and Vine before they brought the Hard Rock Cafe in and everything over there changed.
Yeah, yeah.
It's great memories for me. Well,
I'm sure.
I got a couple jokes for you.
Shoot.
Okay, what kind of meat does a priest eat on Friday?
What kind of meat does a priest eat on Friday? I don't know.
None.
Oh my God.
It's a nun pun.
All right. All right. I get it. What's the next one?
What happens to your asshole when you have an orgasm?
What happens to your asshole when you have an orgasm? I don't know.
He's out drinking with the boys.
Oh, Jesus. That one I would not have guessed. So that's
That one's taken from my bar days. Someone told me that. Oh God, we all lost it. I never forgot that joke.
Oh, man.
Christy, I love you. Thank you for nerding out with me today.
Oh, I love you too, Tommy. Thank you so much for inviting me to come back on. This was fun.
Absolutely, and we'll do it again. And until then, keep writing the book, and I'll be listening to Rock is Lit. I really enjoyed hearing you shoot the shit with people, and I'll send you the link to my interview with Linda.
Oh, please do.
Yes.
Great. All right. Well, that sounds good.
Okay, you have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Christy Alexander Hallberg. Oh, don't you just love her? She is awesome. She's just got a wonderful voice, wonderful accent, and she curses, which I love. And I'm so glad that we got to talk old Hollywood. Go listen to Rock is Lit. It's a great podcast where she explores rock and roll and, the things that she's interested in. I just friggin' love her. Well, until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes!